Hi, friends. Today we will be discussing a topic that has been making headlines, especially this weekend. US has officially entered the conflict, which has been brewing between Israel and Iran over the past few weeks. They have just dropped the B 2 stealth bomber, which is now sparking curiosity amongst the netizens and citizens of the world alike. It's a bunker buster bomber, and they have attacked Iran. Uh, so we will be discussing the nuances of the attack, but most importantly, we will be assessing how it plays out for India and its West Asia or Middle East calculus, right? So West Asia is basically the same as Middle East. The Middle East is called by American think tanks because they are in the Western Hemisphere, whereas us Asians and other think tanks we call it West Asia because Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and all they lie to the west of Asia. So now this has been a problem for many, including myself, because I have a stock portfolio, and this is going to impact severely on many of the equities of different companies simply because Iran is, although sanctions are there on Iran, but Iran is very strategically located, and it a lot of important products, including crude and everything, passes through the Strait of Hormuz, which we will discuss in detail. Uh, but yeah, this is where we are. So we will be discussing this topic in detail and try to see it from a general lens and also from the UPC lens of GS2 and international relations. Because I'm pretty sure this a question around Middle East, West Asia, US, Iran, Israel, and its impact on India will be definitely asked. Focus will not be too much on US, Iran, Israel internal politics because that this is something which is good to know. But from an examination point of view, UPSC will ask mostly implications for India and the Middle East and West Asia political relations. So we'll just proceed. Yeah. So this is exactly what happened. USA has attacked three key nuclear sites: Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Right, and they Fordo mein they dropped the B2 bunker buster bombs. This one, and in Natanz and Isfahan, they have I think partly bombs and partly Tomahawk land missiles. These are all US inventory, and these sites have importance. So Natanz. So we'll just look at this, and we'll have one more map where we will zoom in. So this is how what Iran looks like. Iran is a very big country, and Niche there is the Persian Gulf. This is the Caspian Sea. Caspian or Caspian Sea? I think it's Caspian Sea. My bad. And there are a lot of nuclear sites now. We have Bonab, which is a nuclear center, research center. We have sites which have where milling, new uranium milling happens. There are some sites like Saghand where where mining happens. So there are a lot of sites dispersed across the country, and then Iran is a huge geography in itself. There are some locations which are light water reactors, so it is mostly for energy generation. But US and Israel were concerned with activities happening here, which is Fordo. It is at Qom. There's a big mountain there. So Fordo lies 80 meters. It lies 80 meters deep under the ground of the mountain, uh, below the mountain. So yeah, and then we have Natanz. Natanz mein it is an enrichment hub. This is Natanz. It is an enrichment hub. I will explain what enrichment is very briefly in this video. In another video, I will cover what nuclear enrichment does and how does it help in converting a normal uranium ore into a bomb material. Yes. So this is तो यहाँ पे अटैक हुआ है, Natanz में अटैक हुआ है, और this is Isfahan. So Natanz and Isfahan are part of the Isfahan province, but Isfahan has a city in itself. So Isfahan mein it's a nuclear technology center where uranium conversion happens. So uranium, this is Isfahan. So conversion happens. So conversion is again, it's a term where basically uranium 238 is something which cannot be used as a bomb. So the uranium 238 parts of it is converted into uranium 235. So that conversion process is there. There are many techniques like gaseous diffusion, and lately there are centrifuges. So we'll briefly touch upon that in this video, whereas in another video I'll explain as a science and technology topic on how do these things work. So from geopolitical point of view and slightly geoeconomical point of view as well, Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan में attack हुआ है. This is the capital Tehran. This is the capital Tehran, and these three sites have been bombarded. It is बोला जाता है कि फुर्दो में I mean Israel led by Netanyahu and even Trump of the US, they think that Fordo में जो facility है, since it is deep underground, that means actual fissile material which can be a potential nuclear weapon is situated there. So this is like a mountain comb, and deep within 80 meters or लगभग 80 meters में there is a center. So that's why US अपने fighter pilot से they dropped a bomb, and it's a bunker buster bomb which is B2. So that bomb has the capacity to go inside and potentially destroy this facility where apparently fissile material is there. Still now we don't have confirmation of the extent of the damage. The news is currently developing as I'm recording this, but this is what the situation looks like. Now this is another map, and you will see this map is also very important. Now you should for a question in UPSC in particular, it's important to know the map, and for prelims as well. So this is how Iran looks like. Now we saw in this map the broader extent of all the possible nuclear sites that are available. In this map we'll focus on the key sites. Now you can see the green ones are the uranium mining sites. The blue ones are the research sites. Green ones, the dark green ones is where enrichment happens, and the purple one is where mostly for power generation. Now Natanz, Fordo and Isfahan, यहाँ पे as we saw earlier, attack happened. Now you see these sites are very close to the capital, whereas other sites जैसे यहाँ पे mining चल रहा है, या फिर यहाँ पे जैसे research हो रहा हो, या there's a civilian nuclear plant. Now US and Israel were not concerned with these locations. They were not concerned with these locations. They were concerned with this portion, especially Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan, because here enrichment was active, plus a possible fissile material stock was placed. So Israel alleges that Iran had exceeded the enrichment criteria, which would basically qualify the uranium material that is present to be used as a bomb, and so they kind of had this notion. So on this notion they have attacked. Now why these sites matter? Fordo और Natanz की अगर बात करेंगे, Fordo और Natanz, it is alleged that enrichment has happened up to 60%. So I'll just briefly tell you, a normal uranium ore, let's say यहाँ माइनिंग हुआ है, ठीक है, यहाँ माइनिंग करने के बाद जो यूरेनियम आता है उसमें 99.2% यूरेनियम 238 होता है और 0.8% इज यूरेनियम 235. एनरिचमेंट इज ऑल अबाउट इसका पोर्शन बढ़ाना है और इसका पोर्शन कम करना है रिलेटिवली फॉर अ यूनिट मास. तो व्हेन एनरिचमेंट प्रोसेस हैपेंस, इसका परसेंटेज विल इंक्रीज and इसका percentage will decrease. Uranium 235 will increase, uranium 238 will decrease. Eventually, when as per conventional science, if uranium 235 becomes 3% or 5%, then it can be used as a qualified to be used as a power generator or a nuclear fuel. So it becomes fuel grade. अगर uranium 35 becomes 5%, so of course uranium 238 will become 100 minus 5, so let's say 95%. तो यहाँ पे एक level of enrichment हो गया है, तो it becomes qualified, so that entire ore becomes a nuclear fuel. But Israel is saying that in this facility they have gone beyond 5% to 60%, and for a proper weapons grade enrichment, अगर ये 90% हो जाएगा, then you have a bomb. Then it can be placed in a device and then allowed to explode via implosion, or there is other techniques जहाँ पे आप एक न्यूट्रॉन को बम्बार्ड करोगे उस मटेरियल में, then it will start a fission reaction. a fission reaction. So this is यहाँ पे भी you need enrichment. So Israel and US are alleging that they have secretly done this enrichment to 60%, which basically gets them to a stage where they are just below the threshold of 90%, which is required for a proper nuclear bomb. Now IAEA has do the inspections at these sites, and till now there has been no major report from them stating that they have actually breached. But yes, some of them have expressed concern, and they have noted that. But still, that this does not really, there is no hard evidence as such for the US to attack them. But again, we will focus on not the speculation, but the technicalities of the nuclear sites and why are they geopolitically very important, and the basics of enrichment, which I'll cover in a later video. बस इतना याद रख लीजिए कि नॉर्मल यूरेनियम वो जब जैसे यहाँ से माइनिंग होता है या यहाँ से माइनिंग होता है, दिस इज सगहंड, दिस इज सगहंद. तो यहाँ पे जैसे जब माइनिंग होता है तो उसमें यूरेनियम 238 इज़ वेरी हाई, बट देन इफ़ वी डू एनरिचमेंट देन यूरेनियम 238 का प्रोपोर्शन गेट्स लोअर्ड, यूरेनियम 235 का प्रोपोर्शन गेट्स इंक्रीजेस, एंड दिस प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड एज it's called as enrichment. I will again mention it. Yeah, so this is where it is. And Isfahan का देखा जाए तो यहाँ पे they convert the yellow cake to UF6. So yellow cake is the ore, basically is the uranium ore. It can be, so uranium and ore मतलब uranium does not occur in natural form on its own. It is usually with a compound. So U3O8 is an ore, or you can say U3OX, so it's an oxide. So it is naturally occurring form. So uranium yellow cake को हम convert करते हैं UF6 में, which is basically uranium fluoride 6, and then this becomes then later is used. पहले होता था gaseous diffusion, जब US ने अपना पहला बॉम्ब बनाया था अंडर द मैनहट्टन प्रोजेक्ट, तो उसमें UF6 को it was passed through a process of gaseous diffusion, जिससे you will be able to separate out ores with higher proportion of U235. Then now we have, but it's an old technology, it used to take a lot of time. Now we have something called as centrifuges, which utilizes rotation. So rotation में क्या होता है कि the heavier uranium 238 is heavier, so the ore with the heavier concentration of U238 will go away from will go at the periphery, and the ore with the higher proportion of U235, which is the lighter one, it will stay close to the center of the centrifuge, and then it will be later sequentially distilled out. So this process is called enrichment. I'll explain this in a separate a video with the technicality and diagrams, but just wanted to elaborate here of the significance of these sites. For your understanding, it can be helpful for any exam that you prepare, even for prelims as well. But these are amongst the many nuclear sites that are available. Again, I will again tell you, some are it for mining, some are there for milling, some are there for washing, research reactors, normal power reactors, so heavy fuel reactors. So usme that is not of so much of importance, at least for the time being, to US and Israel. What they were focused is places where enrichment was happening, which is Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan. So यहाँ पे attack हुआ है for this reason. Now of course attack has happened. There is situation is still unfolding as I speak. So Tehran has issued a statement that it is an act of war. In fact, they have mentioned that it is against the principles of the UN Charter. Now remember, Iran is a signatory of the NPT, or Non-Proliferation Treaty. So attacking the nuclear facilities of an NPT country is itself very close to a war crime. So I'm sure Iran will appeal it to the UN. They have already asked for it. I think Russia and China might be wanting to discuss this at the UNSC emergency meeting. They are demanding it because Russia and China have closer alliances with Iran. Remember, China actually imports a lot of Iranian oil because they get it at a cheaper rate, simply because US has imposed sanctions on Iran for exporting. So sanctions implies that you cannot pay US dollars to Iran when they export to you. So what China did is, okay, we will not transact in dollars, we'll transact in renminbi, which is their local currency. And so that's why Iran accepts renminbi payments, and China gets the crude oil, and they basically China bypasses the SWIFT electronic payment transfer system. So with SWIFT, you can do across SWIFT is a network where it's an electronic network where you can transact in dollars, but China avoids that, so they pay. They don't transact in dollars. China and Iran, they pay Iran in renminbi, which is their currency. GCC countries again. I think just latest news is that Oman has issued a statement against condemning the attacks. Situation is unfolding, so other countries will start making their official statements. But of course, back channel, nobody wants war, right? So they will be trying their utmost to de-escalate, because it will impact everyone, primarily because of oil. So oil prices might surge to $100. Now Iran mostly is not able to export oil to a lot of countries because of sanctions, but still then oil prices will rise, and we'll go to the next slide on why it will happen. Because of Iran's location, this is Iran, and we have the Strait of Hormuz here. Now, why is this area important? So on the left side is the Persian Gulf, the right side is the Gulf of Oman, and then this goes into the Arabian Sea. We have Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, all of these countries that form a part of the land masses touching the Strait of Hormuz and Persian Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz is important because it's a small area. In fact, it's a 21 miles between this point and this point, and close to 20 to 25% of global oil passes daily. So oil movement passes through this region. Now, due to the aftermath, Brent crude, which is the index for crude oil, it is already jumped 18%. Now, what are the implications? Now, implications for the world is evident, because Strait of Hormuz get through 20 to 25% of global oil passes. But India, in particular for India, now this is also important. India-Iran relationships, you need to understand trade, how India trades with Iran, because that's an essential component of India-Iran relationship as a whole when you study it. So before the 2019 sanctions, the Western sanctions, where I had mentioned just a while back, where you cannot transact with Iran in dollars via the electronic payment system. So India's import was Iran's. India used to import nearly 11% of its crude oil requirements from Iran. So Iran was a major supplier before 2019. Now India's imports from Iran is almost negligible. But India's total Middle East imports, now Strait of Hormuz तो ईरान के साथ भी है, बट यहाँ से कुवैत का माल, बहरीन, कतार, UAE, Iraq, and then other countries which are bordering, Saudi Arabia, very important. So many other countries के जो goods and वो यहाँ से pass करते हैं, because it is the shortest route. So 65%, India's 65% of Middle East import passes through Hormuz. So this is very significant from an Indian point of view, and this is something you should be knowing because if a question on Middle East comes, then you should know this fact, Strait of Hormuz, in the light of the Iran, Israel and US conflict. So India's dependence is very good. Now, of course, India will be starting to diversify their supply chains. So one way is, now Saudi Arabia ke us taraf Red Sea hai. So like towards this side we have the Red Sea. So Red Sea mein there can be rerouting of the cargo traffic and a lot of things, but in the near term this is a problem, and so the price of oil. The thing is that, see, there are many implications. Now what Iran can do is it can impose an embargo. It can block this route in protest. So it will impact US exports, Israeli exports, and everything else, and that might be one of the counter retaliatory measure. So in that case, when these type of things happen, so rerouting of cargo happens, so यहाँ से घूम के जाएगा इंडिया के पास, so this will incur additional costs, right? One more thing, due to the conflict, even if there is partial imposition of a blockade, now जब आप माल लेते हो तो आप एक कार्गो को बोलते हो कि कार्गो सप्लाई करेगा, तो दैट कार्गो विल चार्ज अ प्रीमियम, insurance premium, because in case something happens, then they want to be insured. So insurance premiums will go up. because of this, because there's greater risk of cargo transfer. So all the cargo companies will shoot up the insurance premiums, and that will lead to overall cost of import. So ओवरऑल कॉस्ट ऑफ इंपोर्ट जाएगा तो फिर करंट अकाउंट, तो फिर इंपोर्ट डॉलर्स का इंपोर्ट बढ़ेगा तो करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट विल बी हायर फॉर इंडिया. सो यू हैव टू बी माइंडफुल ऑफ ऑल दीज implications with trade जब ऐसे सिचुएशंस होते हैं. सो या, सो दिस इज़ व्हाट आई वाज डिस्कसिंग. सो दिस इज़ अगेन स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज. 20 कितना है, 21 माइल्स. दिस इज़ 21 माइल्स for connecting Oman to Iran. Nearly every day, total 2024 में 20 million barrels per day. 20 million barrels per day. MBD मतलब million barrels per day. Average of crude and condensates used to go global flows, and it was about 1/5 or 20% of the total consumption. Not only that, जो LNG trade है, liquefied natural gas, उसका 30% का जो वॉल्यूम ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट जाता है कतार से, वो भी इसी के थ्रू जाता है, बिकॉज कतार इज ऑल्सो हियर around this region as well. So again, this will also impact. So LNG के प्राइस बढ़ जाएंगे. In case it is rerouted, then rerouting will have additional kilometers to be covered. So that will translate to higher transportation cost, which means higher import costs. So ये भी होगा. And this is a very important stat. Asia, the total Asia receives 82% of this outbound crude. India, China, Japan, Korea सब मिला के 67% का हुआ है. And you should understand, India does not import oil directly from Iran nowadays. Earlier there was an arrangement where they used to transact in rupees, but Iran refused. I think something like that happened. But a lot of other crude items from Saudi goes through this Strait of Hormuz. So India, China, Japan, Korea सबका मिला के 67% of the outbound crude used to happen through Strait of Hormuz. So these stats are very important. This will help you understand, like having a visual of how trade happens and what are the economic impact of any kind of blockade if Iran goes for a retaliatory measure. So these are the short term challenges. Now current account deficit ka high hai, high import bill will be higher due to higher transportation costs, insurance premium cost due to the conflict. Now apart from these two, तो वी हैव द चाबहार पोर्ट, जिसमें इंडिया ईरान का रिसेंटली एक 10-year अग्रीमेंट साइन हुआ था, वेयर इंडिया मैनेजेस, और इंडियन कंपनी इंडियन पोर्ट्स प्राइवेट लिमिटेड, दे मैनेज अ चाबहार फोर्ट. चाबहार फोर्ट इज समवेयर हियर. दिस इज बंदर अब्बास, दिस इज चाबहार. तो चाबहार पोर्ट में अभी इशू, इट विल नाउ बी एक्सपोज टू एस्केलेशन. INSTC corridor, now remember this is also a new corridor that was helping India a lot, because earlier goods used from Russia, if items had to come, especially from St. Petersburg or Moscow, it had to come through the entire route. But this straight route, which is the International North-South Transport Corridor, this connects Moscow, Astrakhan, again a place in Russia near the Caspian Sea, Baku in Azerbaijan, Iran through Bandar Abbas port. यहाँ से that cargo can come to Mumbai. So this path was beneficial for India, but now this will be exposed because this region, Iran, is now under conflict. So यहाँ के रूट्स भी बंद हो सकते हैं. बंद नहीं भी हुए तो हायर इंश्योरेंस कॉस्ट होगा. ऑन पर्टिकुलर डेज दे माइट बी ट्रैफिक एम्बार्गो, सो गुड्स माइट गेट स्टक हियर बिकॉज ऑफ द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इन दिस रीजन. सो अ लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज विल हैपन, माइट हैपन. सो दिस इज समथिंग विच कैन इम्पैक्ट इंडिया डायरेक्टली, अपार्ट फ्रॉम द यूजुअल इम्पोर्ट बिल कॉस्ट फ्रॉम अदर circumstances. But an opportunity, I think India has already started working on it. Abhi there will be diversification of routes. We have the Djibouti Red Sea, which is this side. This is the Red Sea. So routing of through here can also happen. So a lot of measures can be taken by India, and I think are being undertaken as we speak. I think just now a minister tweeted about what possible alternative arrangements are there for India to avoid the negative effects of the escalation. Now this is very important from an examination point of view as well. This is India's strategic autonomy tightrope with respect to Middle East or West Asia in the light of the conflict. Now we'll see in detail. जैसे अभी USA, Israel, Iran वॉर पे हैं. इंडिया सबके साथ दोस्ती करता है, बट when these entities are at war amongst each other, then it becomes problematic for a country like India, which has principled relations with all these countries. And since इनका impact GCC में होगा, so how does India get to deal with it is also something to be looked at. So आप एक matrix बना के इसको याद कर लो ना. जैसे what India gains from US? We have a strategic partnership. There, we have I2U2 supply chain. I2U2 is India, Israel, UAE, and USA. We have there's a partnership on food processing. A lot of things are there. So I2U2 kind like understanding here. So these are advantages. India imports a lot. India has a trade surplus with US. US is a very good trade partner for India. So that's a plus. So what India risks is, agar sanctions. So with USA, India had great difficulty in agreeing to for sanctions with Iran, but more sanctions can come through. So there's a risk of how India tackles that. Now, India with Israel, Israel is a very good defense partner of US of India. UAVs, a lot of good missile systems, AI-driven defense R&D. Maybe India collaborates with Israel, and India and Israel has a genuine friendly relationship. Israel helps us whenever there are mini skirmishes with Pakistan. Israel gives us access to advanced weaponry, bombs, so that helps. But if India is too much close to Israel, and especially in the context of this conflict, then there is a problem that that the Muslim countries might view India as a pro-Israel stance. A pro-Israel stance of India might not sit well with the Muslim countries, uh, who usually form the major corpus of the Middle East country groupings, uh, because Israel is against Iran, and they have also had a lot of issues with other Muslim countries surrounding Lebanon, Palestine, especially Palestine. So too much pro-Israel posturing in this conflict might risk India's political capital with the Islamic countries. So that is something which India has to balance it out. With Iran, we just discussed like Chabahar access, the energy option is also there, and we have good people-to-people relationships as well with Iran. Now, again, in the light of this conflict, Iran, if we don't condemn or if we take the side of Israel or US due to our historical relations with them, then Iran will view us differently. And Iran is a neighbor of Pakistan. So, if Iran views us negatively, then we will be adding enhanced conflict in the immediate neighborhood due to addition of Iran. And then with GCC countries, we have a lot of our Indians work there and we get remittances. But if the war happens, then those remittances supply will be hit and it will be an economic negative for India. So this is something I think you remember it in the form of this matrix. So a question comes, you can present your ideas in a tabular format, and I think the examiners like that. If you have to give a snapshot of India's political calculus with West Asia and US. So now what India can do? Now India has always encouraged or endorsed the JCPOA framework. This was signed when Barack Obama was in power at US, and they had made a deal with European countries. It is P5+1, Iran and P5+1. Basically, this is mostly led by the European bloc, France, Germany, and other countries. उसमें हुआ था कि Iran will be allowed to build or get uranium supplies provided that they will not go enrichment beyond the permissible limits. But this framework was withdrawn by Trump in 2015. Then a lot of tension flew. Then 2019 sanctions happened, and then Iran has been living with this for a long time. So again, but still suspicion is still there amongst the countries like Israel and US that they are still doing things under the hood. So that's why probably attacks happened. So India but India has always endorsed this deal, and they said that India can cite this, calling for UNSC restraint, taking it up with the UN, maybe going for something which is on paper, an agreement was there, so they can call for de-escalation, stating that JCPO can be revived, which will help all parties. So that's a good negotiation point for India. Another is, we call it shuttle diplomacy. So we have good relations with Oman, UAE, and other GCC countries, so we can have back and forth communication with them, help convey our messages to the interested parties, Iran, etc., through them. Strategic reserves in the wake of further crisis, we should have our strategic reserves intact, and humanitarian corridor. So there's a lot of operations that India conducted, for example, Operation Salkalp during the Yemen crisis. So humanitarian corridor preparation, back channel talks to evacuate citizens effectively in case the conflict further grows and spreads across different regions in West Asia. So this is something that India can work towards. Uh, and then, so we discussed what happened, the significance of the nuclear sites, reactions, energy issues, energy dependence of India on the Strait of Hormuz, how critical Strait of Hormuz is, why Strait of Hormuz matters in the context of global trade. We might not be importing oil from Iran directly, but most of our energy requirements comes through the Strait of Hormuz, and not only for us, but for many Asian countries. And these are some of the challenges that India faces and what it can possibly do. And this is the strategic autonomy tightrope, which is very important from an examination point of view. And a tabular representation is good for you to remember and internalize the concepts better. Uh, Here are some of, let me discuss what India can do to minimize the negative fallout of this situation. And then we come to the UPSC mains point of view. क्या क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकते हैं? So strategic autonomy, balance of power, energy security, diaspora policy. These are some of the themes that run along with this crisis. Now, based on what we discussed, I want you guys to make an attempt to answer this question. It's a possible 50-mark question. West Asia crisis test India's multi-alignment strategy. Discuss. Now we have mentioned that India multi-aligns, right? We have issue based or interest based coalition with countries, which means that we might not be agreeing with all the countries in principle, but since there are certain national interests that are met with those countries, so India engages with them accordingly. So, and that is why we are multi-aligned. We're not a part of any camp. We are against camp politics, which was very similar to the non-alignment movement led by Jawaharlal Nehru as well. But this is a different kind of no camp politics, where we are multi-aligned with different countries, even though those countries might be at odds with each other. But we still find our way to collaborate with them on specific issues and interests. Keywords that you should be mindful of is deterrence, non-proliferation, choke point, which is the Strait of Hormuz, and the trilateralism and the multi-alignment which India has with the countries of West Asia. One more thing that I wanted to tell here is something called as nuclear latency. So nuclear latency is a phenomenon, a concept where a country has nuclear material, has nuclear reactors, but it secretly, like, it is for civilian purposes. They have nuclear reactors and nuclear material for civilian purposes on paper, just like Iran, which has signed the NPT, means they can't be developing nuclear weapons, but they somehow covertly might be doing enrichment to make it weaponized as bombs. So this silent enrichment ho sakta hai. This whole concept is called nuclear latency. So basically USA and Israel is accusing Iran of nuclear latency, and which is why this whole problem has kind of turned up this way. So remember nuclear latency, a phenomena where a country on paper uses nuclear technology or fuel for civilian purposes like power generation, but with enrichment, it can silently do the enrichment and make the same nuclear fuel, which was meant to be for power generation, it can convert it into a nuclear bomb. So this latency is something, nuclear latency is something US and Israel is accusing Iran of, and that is why the whole issue has come up. I hope this video helped you in getting an understanding of the conflict so far, from the energy security, trade, and international relations point of view. The situation is still unfolding, so if something new comes up which might be relevant for the exam, I will definitely post a video on that. Yeah, so thank you. So if you like the video, please like, share, subscribe. I have uploaded 4 videos before as well, pertaining to women empowerment, water management, and so on and so forth. So if you like the video, please press the like button, give comments, and share with as many people as possible who you think will benefit from this concept capsule series that I have started. So a lot of effort goes into making content, doing research alongside my regular job. So a bit of support and love from your side will definitely help me make better content for you. So yeah, thank you and good luck.